Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stigma-Free Society Wellness Chats with Nisha. I'm Nisha Kare, the co-founder of Human Biography and Women of Wonder. I'm a director, producer, and registered clinical counselor. And through this Facebook Live event, I am representing the Stigma-Free Society. It's a Canadian charity that aims to reduce the stigma of all kinds with a focus on mental health. They promote wellness education for youth while providing resources for educators, school counselors, and parents and guardians. The Society's goal is to create awareness of the various stigmas that exist in the world and develop an understanding of the challenges that numerous people face and encourage people to foster acceptance of not only themselves, but also of others. To learn more, please visit stigmafreesociety.com. And now I am excited to introduce Benjamín. Hi, Benjamín.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Wellness Chats with Nisha. How's your morning going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I'm excited to have you. And so, Benjamín, maybe I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you, okay? So, Benjamín is the founder and host of the Latinx Greek. Did I say that right? Latinx?
Yes.
Great. Latinx Greek Life podcast and Find Your Purpose Instagram series. He is a first generation college graduate and now a first generation professional. He's an alum of San Jose State University and Hartnell College. He was born and raised in the Salad Bowl, Salinas, California. He is the son of immigrants from Mexico, which he is very proud of. And he's been adopted by the Bay Area and currently serves students in their trajectory towards finding their purpose. His passions are empowering and advocating for his culture. So welcome. And maybe why don't you start, Benjamín, by telling us and telling our audience a little bit about your podcast, Find Your Purpose.
Yes. Well, once again, thank you so much for inviting me and be able to, share my story. It's such an honor to have these opportunities because it reminds me that I have a voice, that I have a story, and it's important to share. And
Yeah.
my podcast / Instagram series, live series, is essentially called Find Your Purpose. And it's a space where people can come in and share a little bit about their story, their journey, and how they got to their purpose, but also talking about topics that I think are really important for the community, such as mental health, healing, um, the college experience, first generation college student, first generation professional, self-doubt, balance, all that kind of stuff. So it's just things that I feel like are important, not just for my students to hear, but also for like the people who follow me and just the whole community in general.
Oh, that's so amazing and so important. And so what inspired you to start this podcast?
The pandemic slowed everybody down, right? That last year when everything started happening, we're all stuck at home. The work that I do, working with students in college or out of high school, normally I would see them in person, and with pandemic, I can't do that no more. So,
Yeah.
hey, let's do Zoom. No, it's kind of like no one wants to do Zoom anymore. So I'm like, okay, how can I still be a resource for the students and
Yeah.
for my family members who kind of like the younger ones, and not have to see them in person? I'm like, well, a lot of people are using social media very intentionally for
Yes.
academic and informational purposes. I'm like, you know what, let's try this out. But all that self-doubt, like, can I be that kind of person to be on camera, to be live so people can see? And I'm like, no, I don't know. But then I'm like, you know what, let's do it. So then
You're like, I've got this. I've got this.
yeah, I'm like, it is what it is. People will always have their point of view, and if it's positive or negative, I mean, it's okay. I know who I am, and I know what I'm worth. No, so when I started doing it, I'm like, what can I call this? Like, I think, what am I trying to help? Essentially, help these students, people that I work with, essentially not to get a college degree, but to be able to find their purpose. Because there's a difference. People can get college degrees, but does that mean that's their purpose? Maybe not. Maybe it is. I don't know. I got a college degree, and I majored in Spanish. But I'm not in the field of Spanish. I'm more in the field of like supporting students, academics, and persistence work. So it's kind of related, but not really.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do these Instagram series and invite guests that I know that can speak on specific topics, like finding balance, like being able to study and do create a nice plan, or not feeling overwhelmed, or Zoom fatigue, or being the first in your family, being a woman of color in public institutions. What does all these things mean? So yeah, that's essentially how it started and why I got inspired to start it as well.
Amazing. And then what about that work do you find the most meaningful?
I think the most beautiful thing, obviously, you can say when they graduate college, but I think the most beautiful thing of doing this type of work or working with students out of high school is when they feel empowered that they know they can do it. Like I just told you right now, me being able to feel comfortable and say, you know what, my voice and my story is powerful and I should be sharing it. Like I feel empowered. I feel empowered by all the people that have guided me and worked with me along the years. Now,
Mhm.
I like to say I'm a mosaic of the people that have surrounded me along the way, and I feel like that's when I see my students. I could tell in their eyes when they know what they want or they know what to do because they don't essentially need me anymore. I'm like, yes, this is the most beautiful thing. My job is essentially done. Like I've empowered this student. They know what they want. They know what they got to do, and they're kind of like on their journey now. And hopefully they can remember, hey, this advisor that helped them at some point. No, so I would say that's what brings me joy, what brings me happiness with what I do.
Did someone do that for you, Benjamin?
Great question. Yes, they did. Obviously, I speak about parents, not my family. My parents are the ones who guided me. They're my first teachers. They're my first teachers. They're the ones who guided me from day one, right, to today. But in the academic aspect of things, my parents couldn't help me because of language barriers and everything. So yeah, of course, there was some counselors here and there, professors who looked like me, who took me under
Mm.
the wing and pushed me, but also told me that regardless of anything, we got you. Regardless of anything, we're not going to judge you,
Wow.
because life is a journey where you might be sometimes really doing really great, and sometimes things are not so hot. So
Yes.
people like that have been ones that I've always remember, and I'm always been grateful. And they've inspired me along the way, along with my parents, to be the person and do the work that I do today, right? Because during those times when I felt like I was lost, those was when those people came into my life.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I think of, the people as gifts in our life sometimes, that people
Mhm.
are given to us as a gift to help us in the times where it is dark, where
Yeah.
it is hard, and that if we're open to them, we can appreciate them and it can change our life. And then it can be a lesson for us to know that we can change other people's lives as well. So,
Definitely, and
um,
and it's
yeah.
not easy because coming from a background where being vulnerable may be a little difficult, especially for
Mm,
now,
yeah.
and asking for that support. It's been
Mm,
definitely a journey to be able to let my guard down. Being raised in Salinas, like you said, and growing there in spaces where you have to kind of act the tough one and always have to. You're a guy. You need to like, no, this doesn't. I don't need any help. So
mm,
being in that journey of being vulnerable and letting people in into the spaces where or into me, right, where maybe I'm not the strongest because I'm not Superman. It's definitely been, I've definitely pushed people away, but when those people have stuck there and stayed
mm.
there and be there, I'm like, okay, I feel like safe to let my guard down and let myself be supported. No, and that's the journey that I'm still on, because there's times where I still put that guard up.
Of course.
you know
It's like we protect ourselves, or we've been socialized to do that when it doesn't always help us. And it's amazing that people do stick around, right? That people, even though we try to push them away, that they're like, look, it's okay. And
Mhm,
that's where the magic happens, right? That's when you're like, wait, you're still here? I tried
mhm.
to push you away. This something's cool here. So you care. And that's a good reminder, right? Even if we feel pushed away by someone, they're probably testing to see, are we going to be there tomorrow?
Mhm.
And so maybe you could tell us a bit about your experience as a first generation immigrant, and like how that first generation immigrant impacts the work that you do.
Well, my parents are the ones who migrated here
Oh,
to
right,
the
yeah.
United States. What being raised here as a first generation, son of Mexicans, first
Mhm.
generation Latino, it's definitely been a huge impact in my identity, in my experience, in anything we can talk about, whether it's in the United States, whether it's in academics, whether it's in my professional career. Like it's the idea of like walking through a maze. It's the unknown. You don't know what to expect because again, you're the first one.
Yeah.
And my parents coming here, they came here for, like we spoke a little earlier about, this American dream now, and
Yeah.
wanting for us, or for me, a better life than what they had over there. And that meant for everybody who essentially kind of migrates over here, like getting an education, And for me, it's like, let me take it a step further, finding your purpose, which is, the Instagram lives that I do. And for me, like I said, like just an academic aspect of things, like not knowing a lot of like those people that we talked about, the mentors, the people who have come into my life,
Yeah.
some here and there at times, are the ones who have guided me. But that identity of mine is something that I bring with a lot of pride, because um, being a son of immigrants, and the way that I look, or my community, or my accent, or my last name, or my name, or etc., have come with like stereotypes from others, has come from stigmas from others towards us. Like trying to tell us, oh, Mexicans are this or Mexicans are that, and I'm like, no, we're not. I am not this or I'm not that. That's just bogus. But I think overall, like I said, I never been ashamed of who I am, or what community I come from, or where my parents are from. On the contrary, I do it with, wear it with pride. You see this right here, right? The Mexican Dastic calendar. You see culture whenever you speak to me in my house, in my space. Here, you'll be able to see that who I am and my roots. Never shy away. In my intro, what you just said right now, the Salad Bowl. That's where I'm from. That's Salinas, California, Mexican parents. So always over here, always with pride. But it definitely has shaped me, who I am, and my experience in this country, or in spaces where I might be the only one that looks like me.
Mm. And so that facing that stigma of feeling like I'm the only one, and that you didn't shy away from that. You said, I'm going to step into it. I'm going to be proud of who I am, and share that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I've always been proud, but there's been times where I feel like, like I told you in the beginning, having a voice today, and I'm not scared to speak. Before, I've always been proud, but I was like trying to assimilate
Yeah.
to that, trying to assimilate. Instead of being called Benjamín, I accepted being called Ben, or Benji, or Benjamin. Just like, okay, that's fine. I'm trying to fit in. So definitely hiding some of those pieces of me to try to connect, to try to be part of the crowd. And I'm like, no, like if I'm going to express myself and I'm stuttering because I'm thinking in Spanish before English, and I'm just going to say it in Spanish and then translate it to you. Or if I'm having an accent, it is what it is. Like you're still going to understand me. Or if I you know have to tell you to call me Benjamín, or if I wear something, or if I express myself certain way, if I listen to certain music, it is what it is. Before I'm like, oh, I can't be listening to this kind of music, because what are they gonna say? They
Mhm.
already assume things to me, so switch it up, right? But overall, like I said, it hasn't been easy. It's been a journey with that, but I've always been proud. It's just sometimes I've had to hide some of these things just to try to like not stand out the wrong way, because I felt like, oh no, they might think something different from me. And I guess maybe that was like part of like not feeling so proud, but I've always been.
I love the clarification of your pronunciation of your name. That is Benjamín and not
Yes, your
Benjamin.
accent right there, Benjamin.
Yeah, that's powerful, right? That we try to like assimilation is a big thing, right? The idea of wanting to belong to the larger culture that is
Hmm.
has always been something that exists. And yet, I think now more than ever, people are starting to see that we can be also who we are, and that can exist within the larger culture, and there can be a mix of who we are.
Hmm.
We can be the culture that we have inside our hearts and part of our families that also mixes with the culture in which we live, and that it can all live and breathe harmoniously.
Yeah, yeah. Like my identities are my own. I get to determine that, not anybody else.
Mm.
Um, but yes, I completely 100% agree with you.
Yeah, amazing. And so maybe you can talk a bit about the intersections with, mental health, your identity, and the stigma that you've seen in your work.
Mental health. It's just clarifying. I'm not in the field of mental health, or in the field. I'm not a therapist. If you look at my Instagram account or my social media accounts, you will see me speak on it. You'll see me do posts or reels, or talk about an Instagram live about mental health, or and I bring other people that are experts in the field to share tips and tricks and stuff. But whenever I do a quote or when I'm expressing my own, it's my own journey, essentially, my own journey, my own experiences with mental health. And in this journey that I'm in from the beginning of, like, in college, like I was telling you, like I definitely experienced a lot of, like, sacrifice my mental health, and it came from, like, seeing my parents come to this country and sacrifice their mental health so we can have food on the table.
Yeah.
They worked 6 out of the 7 days, 10 to 12 hours a day, agriculture and whatnot, and still had to come home and be mom or be dad,
Yeah.
So it was very difficult for them, and for us as kids, like, them as parents didn't really know what mental health was, right?
No.
No one really talked about that back in the day, unless you were in the field, maybe, I don't know. And for
Yeah.
me, like, I had no idea, like, if I was sacrificing my mental health, if I was depressed, if I was homesick, if I was this, I was just didn't know what I was feeling. But I would see my parents that they had to, they would wake up every day, regardless of how they physically or mentally were exhausted, and go to work.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's the example I have to follow. I have no excuses. I have to work hard and boom, work for what I'm doing. But that, like I said, in college and as a my professional career, it definitely was taking a toll on me. I was sacrificing myself. And when I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I graduated, or I received two things. I received my bachelor's degree, and I also received. I was diagnosed with something called alopecia, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
No.
Alopecia is basically an autoimmune disorder that, when stressed, I guess, it starts attacking your hair follicles. So I don't know
Oh,
if you've seen, like, patches of bald patches in your head. Some people may lose all their hair, and it might come and go, etc. So I would start receiving or getting bald patches around my head. Right, my hair was falling off. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm young. What is this? Like, am I sick? So then it was really scary. But I guess overall, it was the stress that I was putting myself and my body in. And I had lost weight that last year and a half because I was so involved in school, and I had so many things going on. I was working 2 jobs, involved in a couple of student organizations, trying to graduate, and all these things, right? And I did, but I also got that. So that was kind of like the first reminder for me to start focusing and caring for myself. I'm like, you know what? I got all these pressures and I got all these things, like responsibilities I got to do, but I'm important. I come first. Yeah, so then that was the beginning of it. So slowly started finding some balance. But then later on in my career, now a couple years now with pandemic, especially, and really learning and studying what mental health can do to you, what mental health can affect you and help you taking care of that. I've always been a big believer in working out, physically, like, going to the gym or not the gym, but just working out and going for a run, etc. But I'm like, wow, the mental health is also something we need to work on, right? So then again, I'm in this journey, I'm learning, and especially with pandemic, how that has been elevated much, much more with people's mental health being affected with, everything that's happening in the world. And I'm like, okay, cool. How this is very important. It was very important during when I was in college. It was very important when my parents were much younger and working so much for us to make a living. And it's still very important today. And our students, my students, are experiencing this right now. So how can I be, showing them and influence them to take on work, like focus on their mental health? I'm like, well, I have to be the model for that. I have to model that change. I have to model that example. So that's what I've tried to do. I try to do that not just for my students, but for the people who follow me on social media and my family. So I'm trying to model that change, trying to speak on it, speak on mental health, at home or whenever I'm here. Like I try not to stress on things that really don't matter anymore, and find balance, take care of myself, and just be, this idea also of healing, right? Like you and I were talking about earlier, healing, trauma. That's obviously another conversation, but in my work, in my life, that's what I try to do with mental health. And on my social media, I try to share that journey that I'm in now. I'm learning and unlearning, learning and unlearning things.
I like that. I really like that, learning and unlearning. Because as society puts things out to us, we learn those and just take those things on and make them ours. But that's not always the right way. And it doesn't mean that that's how we should define ourselves. And mental health and being able to talk about it, like you were saying, as a man, as a man from a cultured background where maybe you said earlier you haven't always felt like you should or could share what you're feeling or your true self. And I think that happens in many cultures. I think that happens in my culture and the Indian culture as well. There is a lot of stigma around being able to be yourself as a female or specifically even as a man. And so for you to be able to share what you're going through and talk about mental health, it just really normalizes it for all the people, like you said, in your community, in your family, in the students that follow you, and for them to see that, hey, it's okay for me to talk about things too. Because I think if we talk about it, then what happens? Like when you talk about these things, what happens for you?
Oh, honestly, like whenever I get to share my experience, like right now, whenever I get to talk about and reflect, it
Yeah.
really helps it helps me like with the healing. I'm like, wow, like it makes me understand maybe how I was when I was 17 years old and I was like such a rebel, supposedly me, and like all the getting in trouble. But what was really going on there? Was
Yeah.
I not really understanding how to express myself? And I
Mhm.
was expressing myself this way and
Yeah.
not really knowing how to ask for the help. So yes, as a male, as a Latino male and a male of color, again, like I told you at the beginning, my parents were my first teachers.
Yeah.
Today, not that they're bad or good people, it's just
No.
that's what they knew from their parents and their circumstance. So today I'm trying to learn and unlearn some of the things that they also taught me that came generationally, right?
Right.
And yeah, so definitely been it's not easy, like I said, but I think overall by me modeling it, somehow if people looking at me, I've kind of implanted something in their brain and they'll remember, oh yeah, Benjamín was doing this too. Maybe I'll feel more comfortable to
Mhm.
think about it. Like now they're thinking about it when before that's never was a thought, right? So, and I
Yeah.
think it's representation too. I see a lot of Latina women or women really speak on this, and it's really a little bit of guys or men of color who are actually speaking about on it, and I'm happy that I'm able to do something like this that can hopefully influence or make a difference, in any way or shape or form. On social media, I get a lot of messages, a lot of direct messages or DMs, that we like to say, of people really sharing their story or saying thank you, or on the
Yeah.
post on a social media post, they comment and share whatever they were experiencing or they are experiencing. And I think that's what's important. By sharing, it's like in a way of healing, and like a way of like also connecting with others, that they're not alone in this journey. They're not alone in this journey called life. So it's not an easy thing, but I think it definitely has helped me in many ways.
It's amazing. So being a director producer and capturing people's stories, to me, the story is everything. It is who we are, how we exist, what matters. And like you said, it's how we connect with other people. And if we can do more of that, then we can actually like build bridges towards each other. We can create a stronger community and feel more love within. And we're lucky that our parents did come here from another country and that they worked hard and they, like you said, they, for good or for bad, they pushed those other things aside and they just worked and they made it so that we had the
Mhm.
opportunities to like live and be and do and now to be able to take time and reflect on our lives because we actually have some space to do that and that we reflect on our mental health and maybe like you said be an example to them that it's okay for you also to take breaks, mom and dad, and like breathe and take mental health breaks and like we're all on our own personal mental health journey.
Mhm.
And so tell us a little bit about your journey and how it's been.
Well, it's been a journey. I think overall, throughout these past couple of years, I've definitely taken time for myself. Like I said, I do work out. I like to go for runs. When I go for runs, I don't think of anything. I'm just like zoning into like the nature or whatnot, and really taking time to find balance within everything. I have work, I have obviously the social media stuff, I have family, I have everything. So just being able to dedicate the time for that and dedicate time for me. I have a cat. I'm a cat dad, so whenever I'm hanging out with her and just finding balance and enjoying every day by day. I think here in the United States, I don't know about Canada, but in life, I guess we're always like have to check off all these boxes and make all these achieve all these goals. Oh, I have to do
Yeah.
this by this day. But whenever I turn 30, I need to have all this, or all these things accomplished. There's a lot of pressure. But
Well,
I think we sometimes, yes, it's great to have goals. It's good to have
mhm.
professional goals, personal goals, etc. But it's also important to live the day by day. We
Yeah.
can't just expect, okay, I can't wait till we get 5 years from now, so I'll be a director, blah, 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 blah. Great. But what about all the days in between? We also
Yeah.
need to live those. And if you have kids, enjoy the moments. If you have a partner, if you don't, etc., enjoy that, because that's life. We only have one. So we have to definitely, that's what I see it as, and try to just live day by day, be happy. And at the end of the day, like I said, focus on me. Because if I'm not well, then the people around me will feel that. Because I know that in the past, whenever I've not been in my best,
Yeah.
people around me have suffered that. And
Yeah.
I think it's important for me to take care of me. And I work with students like you mentioned, and I work with people that I'm helping. And if
Yeah.
I'm not well, how am I going to be equipped to help others? So it's definitely important for me to. And when I work with students, I get to hear their stories. When I
Yeah.
connect with people on social media, I hear their stories. And sometimes they're not the best. They're like not the best experiences. They're sharing me and like things that they're struggling with.
Yeah.
If I'm having my own baggage and my own stuff, receiving and learning and hearing theirs, like it pressures me much more, right? So I definitely have to continue taking care of myself, so I can be able to listen to those stories, so I can be a model and help my parents or my family members and give them advice too, or help them out in any shape or form. So it's definitely, like I said, finding balance and focusing on myself is crucial.
How do you see students react when you do share or you open up in a way that maybe they're not used to this kind of like honesty and openness, or that you're like, let's talk about these things that maybe people would push away? How do you see them react?
Um, it's um, it's very interesting to see how they react, because they're not used to an educator or whatnot to speak to them like a person. They're always being spoken to like students.
Mhm.
And I always tell my students, hey, right, we're just hanging out. I'm just asking questions, like you're asking me, and getting to know them as a person. I think it's very important for me to get to know them as a person, for them to get to know me as a person, for them to get to know me as Benjamín. And then once I get to know them as a person along the way, then I'll be able to understand them as a student and be able to help them as a student. So that's my philosophy. But they also need to connect with me as a person,
Yeah.
because if not, then we don't have that trust. Like I told you in the beginning, I always had that guard up. A lot of these students have their guard up. I'm a stranger
Mhm.
to them at times. So once we build that trust, hopefully that guard is down, and they'll be able to feel comfortable to ask for the help. They'll feel comfortable to trust, me, and share things with me. And so they're not used to that. It takes them a while. Trust me, it takes them a while. It takes them a couple meetings. It takes sometimes more than a year for
Oh
students to feel comfortable,
yeah.
and be vulnerable. So it's like I said, modeling it and
Yeah.
connecting with the person. They're a student, but before that they're a person.
Your person.
And understanding that first.
That's amazing. And what a beautiful, like you're saying, it could take up to a year for someone to open up and feel safe to connect with you. And so that's a good reminder for us, right? That it's not that right away someone's just going to like pour their heart out to you. No,
Mhm.
it takes time to build that relationship. And because I think we've probably gone through life and maybe there haven't been maybe such positive experiences and where we feel nervous about sharing. And so, what advice do you have for the people who are watching who might feel a little lost right now, or they're looking to find their purpose?
Ooh, great question. Um, I think if they're feeling a little lost, it's important to, like you asked me earlier, who have helped me or people that have helped me along the way. I think it's important to find people that you feel comfortable with, and if you need to ask for support, connect with them, and ask for support in any way. Like I said, my students, they don't call me, hey Benjamin, I need help with this. They ask me, or they tell me in their own way. They text
Mm,
me. They
mm,
sometimes, well, not really email, but they sometimes send me messages on Instagram. So just find a way to be able to communicate with others, find mentors or find people you trust to ask for their advice, for their support, so they can guide you. If you're trying to find your purpose, I think it's like I said earlier, finding your purpose not necessarily means a college degree. It doesn't necessarily mean a professional career. Like maybe my purpose is to, um, just live a healthier life and focus on women's health and just be happy. And just finding that once you find what you want to do, what really makes you happy, then go for it. Like go for it. I think we're in a time where we have a lot of, we can connect with people from all over. Like right now, right? We could have never connected if it wasn't for social media. So I think it's cool to search that up. Like on social media, there's a lot of people who help others. They do coaching, they do a lot of things, they provide a lot of advice. To just be able to like explore what is it that you want, what is it that you like. If you're stuck in a career or in a job that you're not happy in, then what does that look like for you to look for another job? Obviously, depending, right? Some people need that job to pay the bills. Like my parents needed their job to
Mhm.
pay the bills, but just be able to find those people that you trust to ask for that support if you need, and seek for what makes you happy. It's easier said than done, I know, but it's a journey. Like for me, like mental health, it's not gonna come to a day where I'm like, yay, I'm done. I focus on mental health. I don't need to
Oh,
focus on,
good.
no, it's just forever.
Yeah.
It's long. It's always right. So same thing. I feel like for your passion or your purpose. Right now, this is my purpose. Maybe 10 years from now, it might shift a little bit. Maybe it's going to be a little bit different. I don't know. So I just think it's important to adapt and to focus on us, whatever that might be. First, with this mental health, with our passions. Forget about the checking the boxes. Live your day, but also find what makes you happy. So you can seek that. Maybe that could be your goal.
Yeah, it's happiness is so important rather than just existing. Existence is fine, but we can have so much more than that. To have
Mhm.
purpose and to have meaning and to be able to wake up and smile because you are just thankful and grateful for like whatever is ahead.
Mhm.
That that's life. And it's amazing that you are helping people remember that message. So thank you so much, Benjamín, for being with us today and sharing your message and for, helping people remember that, finding your passion and your purpose is so important. And before we go, are there any other final messages you'd like to leave our audience with today?
No, but thank you so much once again for the invitation and for providing me a platform or a space for me to share a little bit of who I am and a little bit of what I do. For everybody out there, just once again, it's okay to feel lost, but you're not the only one. You may be experiencing something, you may be placed in a situation where you're like maybe struggling, or maybe you are not struggling anymore, but you're not the only one. And if anything, sharing your story, connecting with others, and trying to help others, you help others by just sharing your story. So anyway, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, you connecting and helping others, I would think that's one of the best gifts we can do in life. No, so just go out there and try to model that change that you're trying to see.
So amazing. Thank you so much, Benjamín. And just really looking forward to the work that you do in making this world a better place. And everyone, thank you for watching. We will see you in 2 weeks. And everyone, just remember, share your story with someone today. Share what's within you. Find someone that you can feel comfortable with and safe with. And just sending everyone lots of love. And take care, everyone. Bye now.